Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thanks for joining me for my Try It Out Tuesday. Well, today we're trying out not necessarily a new stamp. Try It Out Tuesdays, the best thing about it is I get to play with any stamp sets that I want. So these are the two that I picked up. They've been out for a little while, especially the Avery Elle one. It's called Love is in the Air, and you could use this for Valentine's Day, which is so cute. But I thought we'd create a nice little birthday card. And then I thought we would use this background stamp. This is called the Grid A2 background stamp from Echo Park. Very inexpensive, but it just has grid lines on it, kind of like my Misty Matte there, maybe a little bit bigger. But I thought we'd create a background with this. So this is, it says it's an A2, and it's a little bit bigger than the A2, which is great because it'll cover your card front. But I'm going to go over a piece of white cardstock using my anti-static powder bag, and then I'm going to ink up my background stamp with my watermark ink here. I'm going to stamp it a few times, and then I'm going to replace the paper and then stamp another piece of white cardstock. So we have two. Once they're both stamped, I'm going to go over both of my panels with some white embossing powder. And then using my heat gun, we're going to go ahead and melt both of these backgrounds. So we have a white on white background so far. One of them is going to be for my images, and then the other one will be for my background panel. So there we go, all nice and melted. That one I didn't get all the way to the top, but that's okay. That's the one we're going to use for our images. So I'm going to bring back the Misty, and then we're going to do some stamping. Since the Avery Elle stamp set, it's called Love is in the Air. Since it does have solid images in there, I thought that we would stamp over our heat embossed background. So for the largest heart balloon, I'm using my daffodil ink. I'm going to stamp it a few times directly on top of my panel, and you can see that the ink's going to kind of resist that that embossing in the back, creating a little bit of texture, and I think that was kind of fun. I'm going to add a little bit of shading to give my balloon a little bit of depth using an orange ink. This is called Orange Zest. And I'm just going to go over the corner, the right corner here, kind of trailing from the stem of, not really, is it the stem of the balloon? The bottom part of the balloon, kind of going all the way up the sides. This is going to give it a little bit of depth. So once that's done, there's another balloon in this stamp set. This is smaller, quite a bit smaller, but I thought we'd use some green inks with this one. So we're going to take that. Now, for my large balloon and my small balloon, I made sure that when I stamped my images, the images were, for the most part, vertical. That way my grid lines will be vertical. I'm going to do a little bit of shading on the smaller balloon. This time I'm using dill pickle ink. It's a darker shade of green. And then now we're going to stamp the 3 clouds that are in the stamp set. For these I'm going to use Snow Cone. It's a real pale blue, so I'm going to stamp it quite a few times just because I wanted it a little bit darker to stand up against that grid line paper. It's not really grid line paper, it's grid line embossing detail. So once I'm happy with this, now you're going to notice too that when I stamp my balloons, I put my balloon images at a diagonal. So the pattern on those is a little bit different than my balloons. And I did that intentional. So if you were to do wood grain embossed background, you would want to make sure your images are slightly tilted a little bit, just so you have a difference in texture. Okay, for my background panel, I'm going to be using some Infinity dies from Hero Arts. These are the rounded corner rectangle dies, and I'm going to cut out a panel with the other grid paper. We'll just tape this down and I'll run that through my die cut machine. And once we have that die cut, I did fussy cut out my images you can see here. Okay, I want to give my background panel a little bit of color. My card base is going to be gray, so I thought we'd use a little bit of a gray ink to shade in the grid lines on this panel. So I'm using cement gray. All my inks today are from MFT, But I'm more concentrating the color on the edges and then pulling it in towards the middle, just so you can see those grid lines. So all my images, you can basically really see the grid lines. Okay, once I was happy with that, I cut out a slightly larger panel, and I'm going to mat my Heat Emboss panel right on the top, so we have a little bit of a white border. And then now we're going to add some foam adhesive behind our balloons and also behind our little clouds here. But before we adhere them, I was thinking about the strings. There is a string in the stamp set, and if you wanted to, you could stamp it with black ink and then fussy cut that out. But I was debating whether using some black twine or white twine or something for the tail of the balloon. Well, I ended up finding some black wire. I like this because I can kind of manipulate and swirl it to where I want it to go on my card. So I'm just basically twisting one end around the base of the balloon, and then I'm not going to curl it just yet. I'm going to place it first. But it was easy to twist. I just looped it around and just kind of bent the wire on both of these. That way it connects to the stem of the balloon. Okay, I added all my elements, and I think this is going to look great. And then now I'm going to take a pen and I'm going to just curl up my wire. And again, you don't have to use the wire, guys. In fact, I know I'm going to get questions asked, where did I get the wire? I think I got this at a Joann's or Michael's quite a long time ago. And it's beading wire, and I don't know the name because I ripped off the tag. But any kind of wire that you have would work. Or like I said, you could stamp your balloon ends, or you could even use twine. I think that would look great. Okay, my balloon ends are curled. I did add foam tape behind my panel, and then I popped it up and placed it on my card base, which is an A2 size card base. And I chose this is a fog cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. It's a soft gray that really coordinates well with my cement gray ink on my panel there. For my sentiment, I found one in a stamp set from MFT. It's the one that has the wow sentiments on it. If I find it, I'll link it down below. But I found one that says, "Let's celebrate you." I stamped it with my VersaFine Onyx black ink. And now I'm going to take my simple sentiments dies, find one that fits the length of my sentiment, and then die cut that out. And I have a perfectly made sentiment strip. I'm going to add foam tape behind my sentiment here, place it down below, and I did add foam tape over the wire strings just to hold them in place. And then for finishing touches, I'm going to add a few of the Pretty Pink Posh buttercream jewels, and then that finishes off my card today, guys. Super fun way. And like I said, you can use any background stamp that you have. I think it would work fantastic. Something a little bit different, almost like pattern paper. But thank you so much for joining me for my Try It Out Tuesday. I wish you a fantastic day and rest of the week too, and we will see you again real soon. Bye bye.